Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Jones, and I'm here with FullPlateLiving. So excited to have you all here today because we are talking about social connection. And this is an interesting topic most of us have not considered when it comes to our health. So I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Beth Frates. Hi, Dr. Beth.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
We're glad to have you here. And I'd also like to welcome Amy. Amy typically handles the chat and anything that's happening on the back end as far as technology. Thank you for taking care of that, Amy.
Absolutely. We love technology when it works perfectly, but sometimes it doesn't always. So we hope, I see many people have already found the chat. So please make sure you find chat, say hello, tell us where you're joining us from. What I love is that all three of us are in 3 different states. So I see people from Michigan and good morning from Disney. I mean, it's just great having a place where we can come together and talk about different topics that are really great for our health. The other thing, if we end up popping off or something happens, just give us a second. Let us refresh our connections and stuff like that. The same thing on your end. If you have issues seeing us or hearing us, refresh your connection. We have also found that the Chrome browser works really well for the service that we use to do these workshops. So those are always good tips to try. But ask your questions in the chat too. I know we'll have a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A. So please ask questions there, and we hope to get to as many that we can at the end. So really excited to have you all here today.
Excellent, Amy. Before we get started, I would love to actually introduce you to Dr. Frates. She is one phenomenal person. Dr. Frates is a trained physiatrist and a health and wellness coach with expertise in lifestyle medicine. She's an award-winning teacher at Harvard Medical School, where she's an assistant clinical professor. Dr. Frates is one of the first fellows of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine and a pioneer in lifestyle medicine. She developed and taught a college lifestyle medicine curriculum at the Harvard Extension School in 2014, and it is still one of the most well-received courses offered at the school. She is currently the president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. She also authored a lifestyle medicine syllabus, which can be downloaded through the ACLM website to serve as a template for other institutions and professors. In addition, Dr. Frates co-authored the Lifestyle Medicine Handbook, An Introduction to the Power of Healthy Habits, which was ranked in the top 20 by Book Authority for medical books released in 2018. To accompany the syllabus and handbook, she also co-created Lifestyle Medicine 101, a full college curriculum with 12 weeks of PowerPoints and a teacher's manual, which is free and accessible through the ACLM website. In addition, Dr. Frates co-authored the Teen Lifestyle Medicine Handbook, published in October 2020, which when paired with the teen curriculum consisting of a teacher's manual and 12 PowerPoint decks, can be used to teach and empower middle school and high school students to adopt and sustain healthy habits. As Director of Wellness Programming at the Stroke Institute for Research and Recovery at Spaulding Rehabilitation Hospital, a Harvard Medical School affiliate, Dr. Frates has created and implemented a 12-step wellness program, paving the path to wellness for patients and providers. Most recently, she co-authored the book Paving the Path to Wellness Workbook, a guide to thriving with a healthy body, peaceful mind, and joyful heart. As of the fall of 2020, Dr. Frates serves as the Director of Lifestyle Medicine and Wellness for the Development of Surgery at Mass General Hospital. In addition, Dr. Frates has her own lifestyle medicine consulting and coaching practice, where she sees patients one-on-one and in groups. Wow, Dr. Frates, that's a lot. You are so involved in lifestyle medicine, and we're so pleased to hear what you have to say. Take it away.
Oh, thank you so very much, Michelle and Amy. It is such a pleasure and honor to be presenting here today. I was delighted to present on the power of purpose, and now I get to share some information about the power of social connection with everyone. Love to be connected. It looks like from around the United States, clearly straight across and all around. So thank you for joining today. We know that we have 6 pillars in lifestyle medicine. I see some of you are mentioning ACLM and becoming certified, so you're aware of our 6 pillars: exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress resiliency, positive social connections, and the avoidance of risky substances. Interestingly, social connection is like the glue that keeps them all together and can power the engine of each of them. If we think about movement and physical activity, I know I sure do enjoy going on walks with friends or runs or even participating in kickball games with students. There's something about playing together, moving together that adds extra joy for the physical activity. Then, of course, with our nutrition pillar, we think about the farmers and connecting to the farmers who were able to plant the seeds and the fruits that we're able to enjoy at the table. They're the delivery people, the grocers, the chefs, maybe ourselves or our loved ones. And then sitting at the table. It's a great time for social connection. Be fully mindful and present, phones away. And there we are, knives and forks and plates, food, friends, family, maybe strangers or new friends around the table. Then stress resiliency. We know that when we are socially connected, we have someone to talk to. And that's so important when we want to keep our stress levels under control. It is a form of stress resiliency. Then with sleep, well, we know that we need our physiologic, water, food, then we need shelter, then we need a sense of belonging. We'll talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but we need this sense of belonging. And when we feel that these three layers of our needs, shelter, food, water, sense of belonging, we're able to sleep. With less stress, we're able to sleep more soundly. And then lastly, in terms of avoidance of risky substances, it's often hard to manage stress, and people can move towards substances to manage stress. Some people have said it, the opposite of addiction is connection. And I know that with some patients that I see, they tell me, look at this pack of cigarettes. These are my only friends. So this pillar is powerful for lifestyle medicine. And when we're doing the coaching or counseling around lifestyle medicine as a provider, practitioner, clinician, physician, health coach, what we're really trying to do is form a powerful connection with the client, with the patient, so that they can be empowered to adopt and sustain healthy lifestyles. Now let's get into the science of this. We are going to show evidence that social connection is good for your health. You know that lifestyle medicine is evidence-based, and we look at the research. So I'm going to be sharing some research with you today. Identify different types of connections that improve well-being. Also looking at the research for this. Then we'll explore steps to cultivate high-quality connections. Some of you may be familiar with that term. It may be new for you today. If you can think of 3 ingredients for a high-quality connection, please do chat that in. And let's share right now what's on your mind or what you believe for yourself to be the important ingredients in a high-quality connection. I will share with you what Dr. Jane Dutton describes and has written about throughout her career. All right, here we go. Jane Dutton. She is a PhD, but she enjoys medical analogies and using biology in her descriptions of connection and also lack of connection. So we're going to get on the same page and define connection. A connection is the dynamic living tissue that exists between two people when there is some contact between them involving mutual awareness and social interaction. That is the definition that Jane Dutton uses in her writings and in her research, and we'll use that today. I see some of you already chatting in. This is wonderful. What you think about when you think about a high quality connection. That's another definition we'll review later. These are my 2 gurus in this area of social connection. We have Jane Dutton here on the left. I like to bring these pioneers, these researchers into the room when I'm giving presentations. It's, yes, their words and their powerful example and their research. I also want you to know who they are. Then another is Ned Hallowell, who is a psychiatrist. He was here at Harvard Medical School, and I've been friends with him for 2 decades now. And he wrote a very powerful book called Connect decades ago, 1999. I read that, and it's still very valuable today, maybe even more important today in 2023. He has been a wonderful mentor for me, especially in this area of connection. And through my research, I discovered that the two of these people never met, and they really are pioneers in social connection. And Jane Dutton, when I was reading some of her literature, she in fact quoted Ned Hallowell. So I connected them via email. That's the way we are socially connecting these days too. But this is Jane Dutton's quote from Ned Hallowell's book, Connect, from 1999. See how relevant this is even today. I actually read this for myself, for my kids who are 23 and 21. I read it to them when they were teens as well. And sometimes I even share it with clients and patients and ask them to tell me what they think. So let's read it together. A 5-minute conversation can make all the difference in the world if the parties participate actively. To make it work, you have to set aside what you're doing. Put down the memo you are reading, disengage from your laptop or phone, abandon your daydream, and bring your attention to bear upon the person you are with. Usually when you do this, the other person or people will feel the energy and respond in kind, naturally. This is how you form that connection that we defined with connective tissue by Jane Dutton. It takes time, attention, and instead of multitasking, monotasking on the person in front of you, the being, the human being in front of you. Vital, human connection, vital. And when we didn't have it during COVID, we suffered and we craved it. And we discovered ways that we could connect and communicate virtually like this. So there were some things that were positive and came out of COVID so that I could be here today, Zooming in or coming in, and you could be here from across the country and we could have this social connection right now. I mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Some of you who studied psychology are very familiar with this. This is from 1949. First, we need physiologic needs, right? We need water, we need food, sleep, we need safety. So a home, shelter. Then after that, our physiologic and our safety needs comes love and belonging needs, basic human needs. Then esteem, self-actualization. Later, I'm going to share with you his updated version of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it adds a couple of layers. Some of you may be familiar with them. If you want to show off, you can put them in the chat if you know the updated version of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But let's think about this in terms of biology. So we know from the time of birth that a baby wants to connect with the parents and that the mother is set up to actually create this connection with the bonding hormone or love hormone you've heard of, oxytocin, from the Greek, oxys, sharp, and tokos, childbirth. This sets us up for childbirth with uterine contractions. The other way that oxytocin is released powerfully is with milk letdown. So when mom breastfeeds the baby, the bonding hormone is high, bringing mom and baby close together. Interestingly, oxytocin was first synthesized by Vincent de Vigneault in 1953, and he won the Nobel Prize for that. And if you're wondering what the biochemical oxytocin looks like, there it is for you on the right. Let's talk about oxytocin for a moment. We're going to need to bring in the brain and the hypothalamus, which speaks to the pituitary gland. And it is signals from the pituitary gland that are then released and allow oxytocin to course through our veins and our bodies. Hypothalamus, there are neurons that produce these hormones, and then speaks to our pituitary gland, and it's the posterior pituitary, interestingly, where we have the release of oxytocin. The only other hormone that is released from the posterior pituitary is antidiuretic hormone, or ADH. This is just another schematic for you. Getting a little biology lesson here today too. We have the hypothalamus, then the anterior pituitary on the left, and we're talking and focusing in on the posterior pituitary for our oxytocin release, with the uterine contractions and the milk letdown. It's also released in different ways, and that would be making love, hugging, massaging, cuddling, holding hands, petting a dog. Many people, when you're petting your dog, you're actually feeling less stressed. Did you know that that is from oxytocin? In fact, just gazing at the animal's eyes, this also works with humans, gazing at your dog's eyes, studies have shown your oxytocin goes up. Not only that, the oxytocin in the dog goes up too. This is studied through urine analysis. So bonding with another, I mentioned human being, I also emphasized being, can change our biology. Very important to know. This is science-based. Now, Ned Hallowell had the book Connect, and he talks about 12 vital ties. It's not just one, but 12. He is well known for his work on driven to distraction at work. And this book became a national bestseller. Actually, he left Harvard, and now he has his own Hallowell Centers, where he does focus on ADHD as a psychiatrist. He also focuses, though, on social connection and gets called in when places like MIT had a number of suicides. They called Ned in to help create connection, and he created some opportunities for the researchers to connect around molecules and formulas. First, he brought a piano into a lounge so people could play the piano and others could listen and they could socially connect in that way. Then at every elevator, he put up, or asked people to put up, the equation of the day, where people could try to answer the equation together and start connecting together around the equations. So he's a brilliant man. And I want to share with you his 12 vital ties. Family of origin, immediate family, friends and community, work, mission, activity, beauty, like what we see in nature, art, the past, connection to the past, understanding the past, nature specifically and special places, pets and other animals, ideas and information, institutions and organizations, and then spirituality, whatever is beyond knowledge, something bigger than ourselves. And one of the very most important connections that is often overlooked is connection with self and understanding self. Because truly, we cannot forge relations, connections with others until we really have an understanding of ourselves, our needs. And you'll see that when we talk about these high quality connections. Want to sit on, rest on nature for a moment. Nature is something that we can all appreciate, gather around. This is my dear mom, Mary, on the left here. Unfortunately, she did suffer with dementia. One of the most peaceful, calming places for her, and a place where she could connect with herself, with nature, with the moment, and with others, was sitting in our backyard, where we do have a lake, as you see the swans in the lake, and for her to watch the nature and be in the moment. So we could talk about in the moment beauty that surrounds us, that this earth has for our enjoyment day in and day out. Now, there's Nature is Medicine, and there are recommendations to get 120 minutes of your dose of nature every week. It's powerful, and it comes from the research. Healthy nature, healthy people. There's evidence-based research, has been since 1990s, as you can see from these different reports in the medical literature, that when people spend time in nature, their well-being goes up. When they connect with nature, their well-being goes up. Now, here's the new Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I'm sure some of you already thought about this. We have those biologic and physiologic needs, as I mentioned, the safety needs, belonging and love needs, esteem needs, then cognitive needs, knowledge, meaning, self-awareness, and then these aesthetic needs. So this is where beauty, balance, form, and nature comes in. Beyond that, self-actualization, personal growth, self-fulfillment. Actually, all of you coming here today and joining in on Full Plate Living events, lectures, presentations, workshops. It's a way for you to also experience personal growth, self-actualization. And then there's transcendence, helping others to self-actualize, which is what the organization Full Plate Living does. We have to talk about the opposite of connection: disconnection, separation, isolation. This is very easy for people to understand now, post or with COVID experience. We know what this means and feels like. I will tell you, this was a pillar I've always been interested in from the beginning, 2008, when I started in lifestyle medicine. And I am part Greek. I must share that my grandparents came from Basara in Greece, and connection, social connection, hugging, really communicating with the eyes and, well, of course, in the hands, is a powerful part of culture and my family. So for me, this idea of social connection being medicine was true just from experience, but it's also true with the literature. And we'll share. Sometimes we have to show what happens without something to show its power. So now we're going to look at what happens without social connection. We must start with definitions, because in the literature, we'll use different terms in the medical literature. So social isolation, relative absence of social relationships, social integration, overall level of involvement with informal social relationships like your spouse, your partner, and formal relationships like a religious organization, volunteer organizations. Then there's quality of relationships in research, positive aspects of relationships, emotional support. Now, let's not forget, there's also difficult parts of being in a relationship at times. So strained aspects, conflict, and stress that can arise. Then there's the term social networks, the web of social relationships surrounding an individual. We're not just talking about social media, although nowadays, yes, social media plays into that, but this is social networks, your community, your neighborhood, your family, your past family of origin, your history. What are your social connections? For example, I felt compelled, maybe some of you feel this way, to connect with a past in a deep way and go back to Basara and see my relatives there and connect with the community, with the land, with the people that are still there. All right. So the opposite of connection, isolation, as we talked about, it is a form of torture, which we know is used in the military. Social isolation of otherwise healthy, well-functioning individuals eventually results in psychological and physical disintegration and even death. So what does social isolation do to your health? This is something that we've known since 1979. Berkman and Syme. Lisa Berkman was in California at this time. She's now at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. And they did this powerful research, which isn't often discussed, but we need to talk about it. So she looked at social networks, as we discussed in definitions, host resistance, and mortality. It was a 9-year follow-up study of Alameda County residents from 1965 to 1979 in California. The results were independent of self-reported physical health status, socioeconomic status, health practices such as smoking, alcoholic beverage intake, obesity, physical activity, and utilization of preventive services. Social connectedness, they used 3 questions to get an index of context. How many close friends do you have? How many relatives do you have that you feel close to? That's a key part of that. How often do you see these people in 1 month? And then she created a social network index from that and looked at the number of social ties and the relative importance of those ties to the people. Intimate contacts were weighted more heavily than group memberships in the study. So the results were remarkable. On the left, we have men. On the right, we have women. All ages are depicted on the x-axis here. We have 30 to 49 in the first grouping, and then we have 50 to 59, 60 to 69 in the last grouping. Same for women on the right. Then there's a bar graph here. So these diagonal lines, which you see are the highest for every single age group, both men and women, these diagonal lines, they indicate those individuals in this 9-year study that had the least connections. So the y-axis is the percentage that died from all causes, which means you had the most likely to die in all age groups, men and women, in this 9-year study if you had the least connections. So we knew that there was something solid there back in 1979. Now, even 10 years ago, this very powerful study came out. Social isolation rivals hypertension and mortality risk factor in a Medscape journal that was published, the original article, in the American Journal of Public Health. Powerful medical journal. They looked at 16,849 adults. They used the social network index to measure isolation. Low social network index scores were predictive of mortality among men, associated with a risk of mortality similar to that of smoking. Social isolation was also an important predictor of mortality among women, along with smoking and high blood pressure. We must take social connections seriously. So social network indexes, this is a journal of counseling psychology, measuring belongingness, the social connectedness, and the social assurance scales. So there are ways to measure this. This is how people can create these scientific studies that are then published in journal articles. And in this particular one, specifically looking at our number 1 killer, which is coronary artery disease, looking at patients with coronary artery disease, those that are socially isolated had 2.4 times the risk of cardiac death compared to their more socially connected peers. We must, in cardiac rehab, not only get people back exercising, which is so important, and change their diet so that they are on a whole food plant predominant eating pattern, we must also make sure that they are socially connected, part of cardiac rehab. Now, diabetes, another really epidemic that we're having, obesity, diabetes, dementia. And more recently, studies are looking at loneliness and diabetes. In this one, during the 20-year follow-up period, 4.9% of the study participants developed type 2 diabetes. Various degrees of feeling lonely were reported by 12.6% of the participants. This is important here. Individuals who felt most lonely had a 2-fold higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes relative to those who did not feel lonely. Asking our patients if they feel connected or if they feel lonely is important. Low quality and quantity of social ties is linked to development and progression of our number 1 killer, cardiovascular disease. It's linked to recurrent heart attack, atherosclerosis, high blood pressure, cancer, delayed cancer recovery, and even slower wound healing. Low quality and quantity of social ties are linked with inflammatory markers, impaired immune function. So there are hundreds of studies that have established this link over many years of research. Remember, the first one I shared with you is 1979. Social support benefits both mental and physical health. Psychosocial explanations that have been presented in the literature for these positive effects of social ties are varied. Could be social support in and of itself, providing the ability to reduce the impact of stress, which I mentioned right away. The start of this with the connection of all the pillars can reduce blood pressure in this way, heart rate in this way, and our stress hormones, cortisol. Now, personal control, enhancing the belief that they can control their lives. Symbolic meaning, like marriage, parenthood, peer groups, racial, ethnic identity with groups, connections, dyads, help us to feel a sense of meaning. And then coherence, fostering a sense of meaning and purpose in life. Now, people who own dogs, looking at that research, elderly people who have a dog feel like they need to get up. They have someone they have to care for. They need to go take that walk for their dog. Also, it helps them. But these connections give us a sense of meaning. And then mental health in concert with everything else. So exactly how this works, we're not sure. You probably have your theories. These are the ones that have been reported in the literature. We know biochemically that social connections, those that feel socially connected, have health benefits, and those that don't feel socially connected can suffer physical health and mental health. Could be benefit in the immune system, endocrine system, cardiovascular system. Social connection reducing physiologic responses like cardiovascular reactivity to both anticipated and existing stressors. Social ties also influence health behaviors. They provide information and create norms. So a spouse, a loved one may monitor help you actually reach your goals, help you support your new style of eating or moving or quitting smoking. Now, sometimes when we're not all connected, this can be a barrier. Our social connection can actually be a barrier to change. So we have to monitor that and realize that and understand that social connections are powerful for all of these 6 pillars, as I mentioned at the start. Now, we must mention strained relationships. So there are stressful relationships. Marital strain takes a toll on physical health. Psychological stress is associated with physiological arousal, increased heart rate, and blood pressure. Can lead people to engage in unhealthy habits, food consumption, heavy drinking, and even smoking or use of other substances. So really paying attention to our relationships and getting help if we need with marital counseling or relationship counseling, really honoring the power of these social connections. They take the full brain and the full body in many, many ways. This particular research I'm sharing talks about mental exercising through simple socializing, because when we're in communication with others, so we're listening, we're also sharing, the whole brain is working. So this is actually a great way to stay cognitively alert and to reduce our risk of dementia. So research shows us participating in a discussion requires executive functioning, listening to others, understanding their viewpoints, concentrating enough to remember or memorize data, updating that information, and then, of course, inhibiting inappropriate responses during the conversation. All of this takes the whole brain. Social interaction can facilitate cognitive performance. In this particular study here, they looked at 838 healthy 80-year-olds. They were the subjects, and the amount of social activity and social support were related to better cognitive function. Social network size was not strongly related to global cognition. It was more the amount of time spent socially connecting. Not necessarily how many people you connected with, but how many did you connect with and connect deeply with. That length, that time spent in the social connection is an important factor. Jane Dutton, here she is with her book, Energize Your Workplace. Her whole career has been built upon cultivating high quality connections in the workplace and also at home. You'll see how you can use this in the workplace and at home. And here's her definition, again, with connected tissue in the blood vessels. All right. Like a healthy blood vessel that connects parts of our body, a high quality connection between 2 people allows the transfer of vital nutrients. It's flexible, strong, and resilient. Think about that. I think that's fascinating. Thinking about the transfer of vital nutrients. It could even be oxytocin going back and forth, right? Really interesting. Now, how about a low quality connection? A tie exists. People communicate, they interact, and they may even be involved in interdependent work, but the connective tissue is damaged. With low quality connection, there's a little death in every interaction. This is from Jane Dutton. So how do we know we're in a high quality connection? The question I asked you at the get-go, and some of you put in some very interesting and important pieces of information and ingredients. Let's look at Jane Dutton's. HQCs, she calls them, which are high quality connections, have greater emotional carrying capacity, number one. What is emotional carrying capacity? The expression of more emotion, both positive and negative, and safety felt in doing so. So this is psychological safety. Amy Edmondson from Harvard Business School speaks about this a lot in terms of medical teams and being able to feel psychologically safe to speak up when there may be a medical error, or to speak up when something may be going wrong during a surgery and no one else knows, but the medical student knows. Well, the medical student needs to speak up. Well, in a relationship, we need psychological safety. If you're not feeling right, if something's disturbing you, you need to be able to say that. When you did that, I felt uncomfortable. When this happened, I felt frustrated. When this happened, I felt unappreciated. When this happened, expressing the difficult emotions is important in a high quality connection. Of course, expressing positivity and joy and love and appreciation is absolutely a huge component, but we often forget that we need to be able to be authentic and vulnerable and share our true self, which may involve sharing difficult emotions. Now, the second ingredient, the ability to bounce back after setbacks. No one's perfect. No relationship is perfect. We may make mistakes. Now, if someone can say, when you did that, it made me feel frustrated. If you can voice that in number one, express your emotion, then you can learn and grow from any mishap, because no one's perfect. No relationship's perfect. So with a high quality connection, we understand we can bounce back after a setback. Third, the relationship has generativity and openness to new ideas and influence, as well as its ability to deflect behaviors that will shut down generative processes. I want to slow down on that. That's an important part of this. Ability to deflect behaviors that will shut down generative processes. What might those be, do you think? Behaviors that will get in the way of growth in a relationship, or may even squash a relationship. So the silent treatment, passive aggressive, say one thing, do another, bullying, threatening, lying, cheating, lack of genuine honesty, authenticity. All of these behaviors will deflect growth. It's funny because these are things that we do learn as children in kindergarten. I used to have this poster, maybe you all did too. Sure, I'm dating myself here, but everything I needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten. And there were kids in the sandbox, and there were a number of things. Respect everyone. Listen. Be honest. Don't lie. It's just such important basics. And we do need to get back to that. And in a high quality connection, we're behaving with those rules in place. So subjective experiences of a high quality connection, feelings of vitality and aliveness. You know you're in a high quality connection when you're in one. The feeling is positive arousal and heightened sense of positive energy, heightened sense of positive regard, a feeling of being known, of being loved. And this is felt mutually. Both parties in the connection are engaged and actively participating. It feels good. Oxytocin is flying around. Now, like FullPlateLiving, like many of our businesses, hospitals, clinics, even classes that we may be in or teaching, there's a virtuous organization that cultivates high quality connections. How does it do that? One that espouses and nourishes an environment of moral goodness, getting back to the sandbox in kindergarten, makes a positive impact on the human experience of its members and customers or students, and ensures that this positive impact extends to the greater community. This is what Full Plate Living is trying to do. This is what I try to do when I teach a class, or this is what ACLM is trying to do, American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and so many organizations that many of us are connected to. I love to think about Bob Brooks, a mentor of mine, Dr. Robert Brooks, psychologist here at Harvard Medical School. He's now, I believe 84. For 20 years, he's been a mentor of mine. He talks about a charismatic adult in your life. Actually, Julius Siegel coined the term many years ago, and Dr. Brooks has brought it forward. It is someone from whom you gather strength. A charismatic adult. When you're in their presence, you feel stronger. When you're in their presence, you can voice your weakness. You can voice your concerns. You can share anything. You will not be judged. There's no shame, blame, guilt, or judgment in that room when you're with this charismatic adult. Hopefully you all have a charismatic adult in your life. I will share with you my Greek grandma Rose, who was a charismatic adult in my life, actually in all my Greek cousins' lives, until she sadly did pass away in the 80s. At any rate, now I have my husband, right? I had my mom, my dad, they also passed away, my husband. Hopefully you have someone. Now, organizations can be like that. That would be a virtuous organization where when people are part of it, they feel energized, they feel better about themselves, they feel like this organization helps them reach higher ground. And again, I do believe Full Plate Living is doing that. I know American College of Lifestyle Medicine, this is one of our major goals. So a lot of this is about resilience, relationships, social connection. Have to realize and take up the growth mindset. Carol Dweck's work from Stanford, you may be familiar with this. This is, any mishap is an opportunity to learn and grow. We will reach higher ground from mishaps. So resilience, the ability of individuals, groups, and organizations to absorb the stress that arises from challenges and to not only recover functioning back to normal level, but also learn and grow from the adversity to emerge stronger than before. So when there is a problem, yes, we need to think about the problem, how it happened, and try to fix it, avoid it from happening again, and then spend some time on to say, how will we make this better? How will we become better as an organization, as a friendship, as a partnership, as a high quality connection? How will we even get better from this? And that's an interesting way to look at mishaps. Keeping resilience top of mind. Resilience depends a great deal on the existence and quality of interpersonal relationships. So you can do this when you're in a caring relationship. There's quality of emotional expression, orientation to learning and improving, not shame, blaming, judging, guilting. And then 2 building blocks of resilience. Remember, expressing more emotion overall, both positive and negative or difficult emotions, provides a valuable informational resource to individuals so that they can use the growth mindset to get better. Constructive expression of emotions in relationships helps individuals learn from their emotions. Again, no shame, blame, guilt, judgment in the room. When this happened, I felt this. What can we do differently? That type of language. All right, so 5 strategies for fostering respect and encouraging quality connections. Conveying presence. This was that 5-minute conversation Jane Dutton quoted from Ned Hallowell, and I still love that quote, right? Being present, mindful, paying attention, monotasking, thinking about the person in front of you. Being genuine, speaking, reacting honestly, no fronts. Communication is affirming, searching for the positive core in another. Effective listening. Empathetic and active, focusing on the speaker's agenda, thinking about them, not what you are going to say next, which so many people do. Think about, oh, what am I going to say next? I'm just waiting for a break for that person to take a breath, and then I'm going to jump in. Well, that's not part of a high quality connection. We're listening, absorbing, nourishing, and then sharing, that vital connection back and forth. Supportive communication, non-judgmental, probably key. Making requests, not demands, threats. providing direction, guidance, not criticism, constructive feedback. Yes. So food for thought here. Let's get some more data. Social service and neurocognitive plasticity. This is a small study, powerful one. Interesting way to connect generations. So in this study, there were 8 older women, elderly women. They were Black volunteers with low income, low education, and low mini mental state exam scores. So this was to help them and to help the others in the study. Match controls. They were partnered with schools to help the students improve academically and behaviorally. 15 hours a week, plus some social support and some team training. And they were mentoring the students, assisting the school library, and helping with conflict resolution. And this had an impact on the students positively, as well as on the participants. They had gains in their executive functions, CEO of the brain, prefrontal cortex, right there. They had gains, an increase in activity in the prefrontal cortex from this type of interaction. It's beautiful, and we should think about how we can socially connect people for their well-being. The people that may be working on their own memories can still have the capacity to help children, and let's put them together. Because after all, social connection is what brings us into this world. We're going back to oxytocin, we're going back to birth and bonding and breastfeeding, and when we're older, we need these social connections to stay alive. Robert Waldinger, you may be familiar with him from Harvard. He's got a new book out, and he talks about the power of social connection from his adult development study, an 80-year follow-up study. He's the third PI, primary person in charge of this research since its inception. And I love his title, Good Genes Are Nice, but Joy is Better. What does he mean? There's a quote from him. Over the years, researchers have studied the participants' health trajectories and their broader lives, including their triumphs and failures in careers and marriage. And the findings have produced startling lessons, not only for the researchers. The surprising finding is that our relationships and how happy we are in our relationships has a powerful influence on our health. Social connection is medicine. Close relationships, more than money or fame, are what keep people happy throughout their lives. Those ties protect people from life's discontents, help to delay mental and physical decline, and are better predictors of long and happy lives than social class, IQ, or even genes, according to his research. That finding proved true across the board among both the Harvard men who were initially part of the study, then they opened it up to those that were in lower socioeconomic cities and communities in Boston, and the inner city participants. Taking care of your body is important, absolutely. Lifestyle medicine, exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress resiliency, avoidance of risky substances, and tending to your relationships is a form of self-care too. And this is his revelation from his 80-year study that he has been leading for the past couple of decades. I mentioned that COVID taught us a lot, and we were just talking about seniors and senior living residencies. And I've heard a lot about what happened during COVID and in these communities. And in this published research that was conducted in long-term care centers for residents, they linked good social connection to better mental health outcomes. Observational interventional studies provided a lot of information that we can use now moving forward. And what can we do? Well, we need to help them with their communication strategies. If they can't hear, help them to hear. Why? So that they can stay in the conversation and communicate with the people around them, and connect them with pets. You know why? We talked about it biologically with oxytocin, with the petting and the eye gazing, and also the sense of purpose that we mentioned. And then laughing. When you're laughing, you're usually with a group, and you're usually connecting on something that is silly, that is funny. And this also changes our physiology. So let's learn from this. And then what research has told us time and time again, we should change policy. Scientific evidence supports the following premises. Social ties affect mental health, physical health, health behaviors, and mortality risk. We know this. Social ties are a potential resource that can be harnessed to promote population health. Social ties are a resource that should be protected as well as promoted and available in all communities. Social ties can benefit health beyond the target individuals by influencing the health of others throughout the social networks. Social ties have both immediate mental health and health behaviors and long-term cumulative effects on health, physical health, and mortality benefits, as we've seen, and thus represent opportunities for short and long-term investments in population health. That's why I love that Lisa Berkman is here at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health and working on this. Social ties, overburdened, strained, conflicted, abusive, can undermine health, and we need to call attention to them and provide solutions. Costs and benefits of social ties are not distributed equally in the population. Age, gender, socioeconomic status, and race variations. We need to pay attention to each community. Think about the social determinants of health and social connection. Brings us back to the social ecological model of change. Very important when we're thinking about change. We think about the one-on-one counseling where we're working on knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs of the individual, getting over barriers, working on motivators. We also have to think about the interpersonal. That's family, peers, social networks, and associations. And you know why? It's not just the one-on-one. We need to think about what's around that person and the communities, the social norms, standards, institutions that they're involved with that are around them. And then policies, public policies, laws that are in place. So this is our concluding slide, and I hope today you've learned about the power of social connection and you can spread it far and wide. What can you do? Connect, make eye contact, shake hands, hug. If you want to, you do the elbow. Depends on everyone's comfort level and how well they're feeling. If they're feeling ill, we can all smile. Unless, of course, people need to be masked. We're still masking in the hospitals here in Boston, so that's hard. Talk and listen. Help another. Open a door for someone. And don't forget, help yourself and take care of yourself so you have the energy to connect with another. I hope that you found this helpful. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you very much for sharing. I personally did find it very helpful, and I know that our listeners did as well. We do have 4 questions right now,
Great.
and we'll go through them. And I think some of them might be related to each other. It was a conversation stream earlier on. And the question says, in fact, I'm going to make it so everybody can see it, I think. We need to reverse some of the damage from the pandemic. I'm curious how people will fare who at least had social connection through Zoom, like group visits or activities when many were totally homebound. What was the protective effect of at least having this type of connection when touch wasn't an option? Are you aware of any data on that?
This is a great question, and we will see more data coming out in the medical literature. But what we have shared together in the medical community, not actually formally in literature, but we do know that when we started doing virtual group visits, I used to do, obviously before COVID, group visits were in person. And then we could no longer see patients that way. So I was definitely resistant, I'd say hesitant and skeptical about how a Zoom room group visit might work. And then SAMU organization in England funded us at Spalding to trial this. In fact, we did 25 people and we had 4 groups. So we had a number of people and it was remarkable. The ability of people to connect by Zoom. And we did this actually internationally at that time in that pilot. And people were opening up, being honest, vulnerable, expressing emotion, as we said, in a high quality connection, able to create connection in our 6-week, sometimes 12-week interventions, such that at the end, They were making lifelong friends. They didn't want it to be over. And in many cases, they actually opted to sign up again. And then the research I personally have from this, in terms of the visits that I've done through Paving the Path to Wellness, our nonprofit, is that these virtual Zoom room visits, these group visits, people were increasing physical activity. They were adding fruits and vegetables into their diet and feeling better and more energized, sleeping better. They had reduced their stress levels, learned the stress resiliency techniques through the Zoom room, and had improved their social connections. So what we have heard is positive, that these Zoom connections and meetings were positive. Now, a lot of people haven't gone back to in person. So I've started doing these now also with physicians. Mind you, physicians were burned out during this period,
Yes.
and still are. And so they started these lifestyle medicine, Paving the Path to Wellness programs with me. And I'm at Mass General. They're at Mass General in different departments. We all met yesterday on Zoom, and we continue to do this through Zoom. So I think we're going to find, and we have been finding, results are positive in that these Zoom experiences are helping. Now the question, what about those people that didn't have internet and they were isolated? Now getting a research study completed on that will be very important. I'm going to predict, just given what we learned today and what I've studied over decades, is that those people did suffer. So my question is going to be, what do we do for them now? How do we get them hooked in, and how do we make sure if something like this happens that they won't be isolated again? Let's think about what we can do to help them now so that they can feel integrated, feel loved, feel a sense of belonging. I hope that helps.
That was very helpful. Thank you for sharing your personal research and experience. And based off of that, and I'm kind of piggybacking off of the ending of your statement just now, what about people who have had damage from loneliness or lack of a social connection? Can you bounce back from that? Can you create resiliency? And how, let's say somebody is struggling with loneliness right now, what would be a good place or resource for them to start?
Yeah, great question. First thing is reach out to your primary care physician today. If you're feeling lonely, you need to reach out and you need to say, I'm feeling really lonely, feel like I need a visit, and you will get a visit. If you haven't been seen by the family physician in a while, they're certainly welcome you with open arms and need to check a whole lot of things, but we'll be able to talk with you and be a form of social connection. I would say second, reach out to a friend, family member that you were close to in the past, and reach out to them and say that very language. I'm feeling isolated. I'm feeling lonely. Can you help me? We must reach out for help. Now, that's hard for some that are lonely and also depressed. So we do the best we can. Hopefully people are having their routine exams and seeing their physician at least. Religious organizations of any faith, spiritual organizations where you're meeting regularly, these also have been shown to help people feel connected. And they are opportunities to talk, have conversation during the week to develop friendships that do often take time, but they not only have their services in the week, but they often have other activities throughout the week, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening. Sometimes they do volunteer work. They encourage their communities to come together and work at a food bank or something. Getting involved in that way can be very helpful. Getting volunteer work, volunteer work itself, if you accumulate about 2 hours a week of volunteer work, your well-being goes up. Is this because we're giving back? Likely, but it's also likely because we are connecting with others when we are doing the volunteer work. So another thing is to, if you have a dog, get out and walk your dog, because you're usually connecting when you're walking the dog, because people run into you, your dog sniffs someone, things happen. And if you don't have a dog, find a friend with a dog and ask if you can take a walk with your friend with the dog. And then petting the dog can also be helpful. Going to a pet store and seeing the cats and dogs that are there, and talking with the people in the store, going to a library, looking for books and talking to the librarian about different books. And maybe there's going to be a speaker there, and this is free, right, in your local library. So finding free, local, close by opportunities to be with others, rally around something you're both interested in. So again, if it's a spiritual organization, it could be the prayers or what's going on there. Or if it's in the library, the speaker, the book. It could also be walks. We have walks in our community for older individuals, and anyone can come and join the walks. So if you are that person, it's going to take the reaching out, and then hopefully you reach out to your friend or your physician, and they can plug you in. The friend, the family member can help plug you into these other opportunities. But if you are feeling well and you note someone is not feeling connected, then think about these possibilities, and even inviting the person out for a walk in nature, perhaps.
Great. Those were all very, very good tips. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple more.
Sure.
I'm going to ask Amy hopped on. Did you have a question, Amy? I know we're running a little over our time.
Yeah, I was just going to tell everyone, several people have had the question of, will we have recording? Yes, we will have recording of this. We always, we do these as part of the Full Plate Living membership, so it will be in that free membership that we offer. We also do like to put them on our YouTube channel too, so you can find it there as well. So yes, we'll have recording, and then we always, some people asked about closed captioning. We'll add closed captioning to that as well for those who would like that.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And too,
thank you, Beth, for connecting with us today. That is very much a very core of having a community. And that's why we do have a private Facebook community, even for fellow members of Full Plate Living, to connect and talk about food and health and kind of what they're doing, because it is so important to every single one of us.
Yes.
Very true. So the next question actually asks about a different health parameter that we didn't mention in this, but is there any connection between loneliness and developing celiac disease?
That's interesting. And I don't have that data off the top of my head, but now you've sparked me to get into PubMed. I love PubMed. I love doing the research, and I will share with you that that's what I do, and you can do it too. It's free. PubMed. Pub, it's like public medicine, but PubMed. And what I would do is go ahead and put in celiac disease and loneliness, and that's how I would find literature on it. Now, I will just say that stress can impact our gastrointestinal health. We know this, the gut-brain connection. So one thing, when you're talking about celiac disease, though, let's be specific. If you have an allergy, right, and you can't tolerate wheat or gluten, it's really a very specific, targeted issue. So that has to be managed medically. Now, are you going to find results that say people who are socially connected do better and their well-being is increased and their management of the condition is improved? That could be. And that the stress that they feel on their bodies, on their lives, is reduced. That could well be. But if you do have an allergy to something, your body has an allergy, a reaction to it, I think we have to take that seriously and honor it and make sure to get the proper care for yourself so that you don't experience that reaction. So I think, though, it's an opportunity to explain that social connection can help us when we are managing any type of physical, mental, even occupational challenges. Social connection is a powerful force for us and will only enhance our lives, unless it's a strained one, which we reviewed. So if it's a strained one, we have to acknowledge that, get help, or build boundaries around it, or build boundaries so that we don't engage, right? So there's options for that, but a powerful, positive social connection and a high quality connection will serve you well for any challenge, mental, physical, occupation that you're going through. Oh, I see.
Very
Oh,
good.
so by the way, I see it says, was curious if loneliness can bring on celiac. Well, that's interesting. Uh-huh. That's interesting. Let's look at that in PubMed. I don't have that data here, so I need to review it. I need to look at it. It's a great question, and that's Laura. Laura, that's a great question.
It is a great question. Last question, and it's long, so I'm just going to paraphrase it. So Linda has a father. He's 96 years old, was widowed 3.5 years ago. He lost his wife right before COVID, but he's a loner and he likes just being alone, doing everything all in his own time, all by himself. Do you have any insights into individuals like this? So has only one meeting with 2 acquaintances from work. And now for 1 hour, and it's just for 1 hour. Otherwise, it's just a phone call to his son.
Okay. And this brings up a great point. So it's a feeling of loneliness. Some people actually feel lonely and they're living with 10 roommates. So if this amazing 96-year-old gentleman, it sounds like it's Linda's father by this, but is happy with the social connections he has, sounds like once a month in an organized fashion, but it does sound like there's connection daily with a phone call. And that could be exactly what this 96-year-old individual needs, a daily check-in. And we also, I'm not sure if anyone has asked, do you have other friends that you connect with? Or maybe they do and he says no. Maybe he is going out himself. Maybe when he goes to the grocery store, he feels there's connection with people there if they're consistent. Maybe he's part of another organization. If he is or isn't, if he's happy and he says, I feel connected. I get a phone call every day, or I get a phone call every week. I meet with my friends every month. I feel connected. Maybe he's connecting with books and characters in books, and he's reading those books. And a lot of people who read books get really involved with the characters and the stories, and some books are extremely powerful and compelling. And maybe for him, that's important. Or maybe his real connection is to nature. Or remember those other 12 vitals connections. Maybe he's really connected with himself and has a lot going on for himself in some way. And maybe that's even his day-to-day, getting a healthy meal, cleaning up the dishes, making the bed. Maybe for him, this routine that he may have is what's healthy for him. But you made a great point. I'm glad this question came up, because even though literature shows connecting once a day, so 7 times in the week, is what's recommended if we say on average. If someone is happy connecting once a week, well, they're happy, they're engaged, they have a high sense of well-being. So perhaps for that individual, that's what works. So I think experimenting would be a great idea. For example, maybe someone else can call the 96-year-old and he gets 2 phone calls in the day, or more phone calls in the week, or maybe we test out a Zoom. I don't know, 96, I don't know if he can Zoom in or FaceTime. I mean, this is all complicated, but maybe this talk and this experience is an opportunity for all of us who have someone like this in our lives, and specifically for Linda, to experiment and to ask some questions. Are you feeling connected? What could we do to help you feel even better? That's just a great question. Well, what would you need in your life to increase your sense of well-being? Who knows what he'll say, but you could always try out. Would it be nice if you got more visitors? Would it be nice if you had more phone calls? Would you want to join a walking group? Would you want to join a bridge group? Would you want to, and you could play with it and he could experiment. And maybe he doesn't even know how good life would be if he did have more interactions with others. I hope this helps.
I think that was helpful. I think those are very good ideas to try with anybody, especially people that are a little more elderly or housebound for various reasons. So thank you for mentioning all of those. And thank you so much for being here today. I know this was very meaningful and helpful to me personally. So I am very thankful for your time.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, Amy, and thank you everyone at Full Plate Living. I saw Janet at some point was on the chat, so
Yeah.
thank you very, very much. I do love this organization, and it's an honor to present to your community. Every time that you've given me this opportunity, I jump on it, and I'd be happy to come back to talk about another topic that you think might be useful. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Beth. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everybody have a fabulous day.
And thank you for being with us today.